Hi, Pastor Steve here in Visalia. This is Happy Thoughts. Glad to have you join us today. Today, I am talking about the existence of God. Let's start this way. Let's remember together that Christianity and other people of faith have been taking a beating for quite a while now in the modern age by people who effectively say, look, Christianity is full of magical thinking and stuff that we all know doesn't happen. Resurrection is not possible. Dead people stay dead. Jesus didn't just pop up one time on walking on water on the lake, or just appear suddenly amidst a crowd of people and then disappear also. There's no such thing as immediate healings, right? Our everyday life, the things that we live out, disprove apparently so much of what is said about the people of God and the power of God through Christ and then in the apostles, that it's easy for modern day atheists just to say, what a bunch of nonsense, right? It's all hogwash. You add to that the attitude and the actions of many Christian leaders and truthfully, just Christianity in the last 30 or 40 years, or even throughout history. There's been some pretty horrible things that have been done in the name of God and in the name of religion. And it's enough to make a thinking person, somebody who's genuinely looking for the meaning of life or some deeper truth. You add up all of those things, the non-scientific thinking, the hopeless addiction to power through politics, the other things that Christians have done through the ages, and it's easy to conclude, look, it's all hogwash, right? There is no God. These people are just a little off or whatever, and they're obnoxious too. I'm a Christian. I am an ordained minister who follows Jesus, and I want you to know that those things never ever offend me. They really and truly don't. Most of them are fair enough. Christianity has a pretty jaded history, right? We've been up to some horrible stuff. Anybody with power has been up to some horrible stuff, right? And the Catholic Church effectively ran the Western world for a good long time. In the United States, the moral majority and other groups like that, when they cuddle up to politicians and start thinking that what they need to be doing is making laws for our country and forcing other people to think or to live in certain ways, that gets ugly really quick, and it's an uncomfortable part of our faith, and it isn't really, I think, at the base of our faith. So as a Christian, I'm not offended when people point out the fact that we haven't been all that, right? Christianity has some beautiful contributions to the flow of the world, but there's some things that are really problematic. And it's never offended me. In fact, as a younger man, when people talked about, look, science really disproves the whole idea of miracles. And if it disproves miracles, then that should give you a reason to doubt all the rest of the things that are said. Was Jesus really born of a virgin? Is resurrection even possible? Those things impacted me, and I carried around a living debate in my mind for a very long time. And a part of the way that I tried to resolve my difficulties that were created by kind of the non-faith insistence that people of faith are goofy and really unscientific, was to understand that a lot of people who said that did not understand Christianity with any depth. They were building a straw man and then burning it up, which is relatively simple-minded to do, right? As eager as they are to destroy the whole vestige of the faith tradition, that's not right. And my critique of those on the first level was, you probably ought to really take some deep theology courses and study and look for yourself. Quit picking on something you don't understand. And I realized that the debate in my mind then on the scientific side was the same thing. I was never a science student. In junior high school, college, I avoided scientific classes as much as I could. I'm a poet. I'm a writer. I live in a different type of existence internally. So science was an uphill struggle for me. But I knew if I wanted to be able to solve the conundrum inside about these seemingly sensible critiques of Christianity and its insistence on the character of God being able to do miracles and really the basis of the faith exists because of the belief in resurrection and the virgin birth, that I needed to be better than the opponents or people who thought differently, I needed to study some science. And I found solace in studying the scientific school of physics, right? Because physics deals with science at a level that is much like theology. People say lots of things about Scripture and about God and about Christianity, but they have no idea what they're talking about unless they've lived it for a very long time and really studied it deeply, not just intellectually, but studied it with their heart and soul. And the same thing is true of physics. I'm going to read just a short section from one of my favorite books. It's by Bill Bryson, and it's called A Short History of Nearly Everything. Bill is a fantastic writer, and I hope you will read his books. And he's an avowed atheist, right? He doesn't believe in the existence of God, and really does tend to think, I think, that Christians are a silly bunch. It's hilarious because he's writing about physics in his book, and he frequently comes to the place of deep mystery where science simply can't explain what they have discovered about the truth about nature and the nature of things. And when any reasonable human being would say, maybe there is a power beyond ours, maybe there was a force that intentionally created matter so that it exists in this way, a very reasonable conclusion to make in that general way. Bryson will do anything in his power to avoid it. He even uses the word miracle, but then comes off of it quickly to to assert right that it fits the definition of miraculous, except of course there is no God, so there are no miracles. Here is a short section of his beautiful understandable explanation of quantum physics. And in quantum physics, a big part of what they have uncovered is the mystery of how electrons exist and how they move. I'm not going to go into any of the science. If you're interested in this, you can do your own studies. But listen to the language, and then I'll pick up a little bit why this is important to us. He is explaining the uncertainty that science. Quantum physics discovered about the electron. So he says, the uncertainty around which the theory of electrons is built is that we can know the path an electron takes as it moves through a space, or we can know where it is at any given instant, but we cannot know both. Any attempt to measure one unavoidably disturbs the other. This isn't a matter of simply needing more precise instruments. It is an immutable property of the universe. What this means in practice is that you can never predict where an electron will be at any given moment. You can only list the probability of it being there. In fact, an electron doesn't exist until it is observed, or put slightly differently, until it is observed, an electron must be regarded as being at once everywhere and nowhere. That's a description of the truth of the nature of electrons at their core. And it's an explanation that you probably already, as I read it, know perfectly describes the things that are said about Christ and about others in Scripture and in our tradition. So Christ is everywhere, and at the same time is intentionally and uniquely with those who he created. That is to say, every human being, and even in a more intimate way with those who are walking his road with him, who have declared faith. And the things of God, the things that are scoffed at, right? The miracle, the idea that with a word or the touch of his hands, Jesus could heal somebody and change their physical being instantly, is no more bizarre or weird or difficult, although it is all of those things to believe or understand, than the fact that an electron doesn't exist until it is observed, and that you can't know both the path that it travels and where it is at the same time, so that the only logical conclusion is that it exists always and everywhere in every place and no place all at the same time. It's hard to understand. But what I take away from it is this. Physics proves in a general way the veracity, the truth of much of what the Bible has to teach us about the miracles that Christ created. We won't do much theology today, but the basic idea is this: if Christ really was in some way God, the creating power, the one who designed and created all matter and all things in the universe, if he was uniquely that power encompassed in human flesh, then to me it's no leap at all to say, of course he could do miracles. He could do things that astounded and confounded people, and which go against the general rules that we live out every day, as does almost all of quantum physics. If you're a Trekkie or you watch sci-fi movies, most of the things that you see in there, beam me up, Scotty, those things, they come from quantum physics. So they're actually based in truth, right? They're observations of the nature of matter at its smallest level. And it is crazy. It's bizarre. It's hard to believe what science tells us about matter at that level. Unless, of course, you understand, truth be told, for the last 4,000 to 6,000 years, the faith tradition of Judeo-Christianity has been observing the same things, only observing them in a few instances where those same truths were manifest on a level that we could see and observe without the use of modern viewing devices. In other words, the very things that science reveals are true about the state of matter and about the nature of things are illustrated as they occur in snippets throughout history by the faith stories upon which Christianity is based. And it makes perfect sense. If Jesus is God in flesh, then of course he could do miracles. And of course resurrection was not out of the question. And of course a child can be born of a virgin. In my walk, those things really cemented in me that the stories of faith that are sometimes pretty incredible and actually sometimes pretty hard to believe because they don't line up with anything I've experienced are based in a truth that can be proven scientifically. And that relieves me of the need to have experienced everything that I believe and allows me to say, what an amazing thing that God has acted in history in these ways that we are now discovering through proper, detailed scientific inquiry are absolutely a part of the way the whole of the world is constructed. There's lots of other things to talk about, but let me just stop there for today and offer you that. It is true that in general, scientists disclaim views of faith and think people of faith are silly and relatively mindless. But it's also true that ego, which caused the church in its history sometimes to act in horrible ways, is present in the scientific community. And any scientist who takes a straw man of Christianity, a generalized stereotype, and dismisses it without doing deep theology and considering the matter and says science disproves all of that nonsense, doesn't know their science and is letting their ego and, truthfully, letting their predetermined outcome in that thought process determine what they think and do. And that, friends, is not the scientific method. Scientific method is to look for evidence, right? To have a proposition and then to go out and look for evidence and to see if the evidence points that way. Here's my point. Quantum physics, absolutely, undeniably, for anybody, whether you start out a believer or not, points to the veracity and the truthfulness of the Christian witness of miracles. Absolutely. Doesn't mean that every miracle that's claimed, right? And some people, good Lord, they have miracles every day of their life. Doesn't mean that every miracle that's claimed is true, because human beings are human beings. But it does mean that it is entirely possible, certainly reasonable to believe, there have been amazing miracles in which the secrets of the smaller world were manifested in a larger world. And they were so astounding that they got carried through the historical record, and we have them today in the New and the Old Testaments. It's absolutely sane to believe those things. It's unfair and childish to throw Christianity out because of a false stereotype and to claim anything about science disproving what Christianity claims. Again, Christianity is best friends with science, or shouldn't be afraid of it at all, because the more scientists learn, the more the crazy things that Christians say that they believe and profess are necessary turn out to be entirely plausible and possible. Now, our rule on this vlog is you don't have to believe anything, and you don't. You should believe the science, because you can look it up yourself, right? Type in quantum physics and go to town learning about the characteristics of the smallest particles of matter. You'll be amazed, really. It's like reading a book about magic. It truly is. You don't have to believe or make the same conclusions that I have, but here's what I'd like. I'd like it if you took the time to view this video. If you have entertained the notion that science debunks Christianity and makes it look silly, I'd like you to at least live for a little while with the understanding that isn't necessarily true. A perfectly reasonable person can look at science and see in it clearly that it proves some of the things that Christians say that are most hard to believe. It is the case that science, as it has gone deeper and deeper into the quantum world, has discovered the rules that they know govern the larger bodies simply don't apply at the smallest level. And that's a dynamic that's problematic for scientists. Here is an opportunity for thinking people who are reasonable and who are really in pursuit of the truth, aren't pushing some worldview on anybody else, to consider fairly whether or not the faith tradition of Christianity can stand up to what science has discovered about the truth. And again, I advocate clearly it can. Let's just go that far, right? Just try to live for a little while in your life with the idea and the hope in mind that the things that are said, the fundamentals of Christianity, are true, and they are supported by, if not proven by, scientific inquiry. Changing that basic worldview might open up your heart and your mind to the ability to follow Christ, or to have a life of faith, or to connect with your Creator in a way that you never imagined. I have no intent of trying to help people think and be and live exactly as I have, or exactly as, quote, Christianity supposedly tells you you're supposed to. But I have a deep investment in giving people an opportunity to find their path, right? To find the truth, and to know some things that aren't really a part of the public discourse, because the public discourse is a generalized manipulation. These are simple truths that you can check for yourself. So there's my happy thought for today. Turns out quantum mechanics is deep theology, some of the best theology that exists on the face of the earth. Check it out, see what you think, and I'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.